Hi, I need to put a disclaimer real quick. All these things that I say in the video are purely opinionated. However, a lot of people who do like VRoid models and things like that usually follow by these rules and usually have like a similar method of working. So, even though you don't have to follow everything to a T, I would suggest using a few of them. It's just like a quality of life thing. So, first thing you have to know, how do you move around in VRoid? Which seems easy, right? It seems like an easy thing to do. It's like, oh, you just zoom around with the scroll wheel and things like that. However, there were like a few little things like that no one really talked about. It's like, oh, well, you know, it's supposed to be like whatever. And no one really told me. I was like, okay, I guess no one told me. So, let me pull up an example. Here is one of my older models that, let's see if this will load. So, biggest thing, scroll wheel. It zooms in and zooms out, right? Right click is to rotate, sorry. And then you would use the scroll wheel to move this around. However, if you're doing something like textures here, you can scroll in, scroll out, and right doesn't rotate anything. But scroll wheel also doesn't do anything if you do this. Remember, you have to press shift and then move it around, and then now you can scroll into different small parts of textures. That was the biggest thing I had to address first, because no one told me that, and it changed a lot of things that I did about VRoid afterwards. So, biggest other thing, do not use the textures in VRoid. Biggest thing, remember to customize your things. Like if you never customize the things in VRoid, you can always tell if something like, you know, is using the original skin. So something like this, you can tell that they use like the original skin and there's nothing like changed because the faces are almost exactly the same. Yeah, that's like one of the biggest things. So even in their own models that they changed, right? Even their own models that they changed, something like this, right? You can tell that the skin is different. And that's how a lot of people differentiate themselves and make it look like, oh, it's not a VRoid model. This might just be a 2D model, right? So this helps a lot, firstly. And so like a really good models like this look really 2D. Just like look 2D. They don't look like they're made in VRoid at all. Something like this, right? And so, so the biggest thing about this, if you look at my model here, right? If you click on it, oh shit, this is on the textures, sorry about that. If you click on it here, firstly, biggest thing, shapes are different. So this one is, if you look at this is basically like where, you know, this is like, it dictates like how thick this strand of hair is, like width wise, not this is like the general width, like the entire width, like completely ratioed. However, this is like the specific width. So this is like, it's thicker in the middle, and it ends like as like it just stops in the middle. I mean, it stops and it doesn't go to like, you know, it doesn't become a triangle. So something like this. This is, it's good to always change this for like each strand, especially for bangs. Bangs, like it's very easy to tell if like your bangs are almost exactly the same. So some of them are triangles for me. Usually I don't do triangles because they don't look too good. But if you want to use triangles, they look good like if you use them like with other things, right? But if you only use triangles, they look really bad. So how to do these ones? Let me explain how hair works in this thing. So, if you started using this, you probably know that hair has meshes. So, the mesh is pretty much like a piece of paper, right? So you bent it a piece of paper, and this is like your paint stroke, right? So you paint like a straight line, and then you can bend this. It's easier that way to make curves look more natural. If you don't do it that way, it usually looks kind of bad. So I would suggest if you're doing something like a ponytail, just draw the line straight first and then change the mesh. So you would just change these points and just like, you know, do something like this. Remember to always check from different angles, because sometimes it just looks weird. And also why I suggest you do it downwards is that the X and Y coordinates stay like generally the same. For like, so if I were to move this up and I drew it on, maybe like maybe it would go something like this, right? But I wouldn't be able to tell because it would look the same from here, from this angle, right? But from the X, I don't remember which angle this is, it doesn't matter. It would look like this, right? Like from the top it would look like this. So that's why it's good to draw first and then change the shape. However, you can always do the opposite. For things that are straightforward like this, like hair, that's fine. But for things like ears, you either you can get a template, you can download them as like hair presets, or you can draw the line first, which this is basically just an unfulfilled triangle, and then there's like a front part of here, and that's just like it's like a very similar thing. It's just like, you know, the cover. So, and that's also unfulfilled triangle. That's how you do ears. However, ears are really tricky. There are a few like tutorials out there, but they're not too hard. Pretty much like same as this, right? It's same as this, but like you just pull the mesh way higher and it just becomes like a kind of it pretty much inverts on itself, since like usually the hair since usually it goes down, it curves back up like here, like this, if you can tell. So yeah, biggest thing, shapes. Second thing, textures. If you look at my own textures here, for the brown hair here, right, you can tell that we have a few textures. Biggest noticeable change, right? Some of them are for the ears, some of them are from the hair, but for these ones, right, let me go to the pink ones just so you can see. This pink layer just has like the shading. So there's the top shading, that's where the scalp is, and the bottom shading, which is like a lighter pink. However, on this one, it has a different, it has a little bit different. It has like a little bit of like a highlight. That's for the bangs, and that's why these are on different ones, because you can't do them on the same. You can, but it's easier if you want, oh, maybe I want like transparency on the bangs only. It's easier to just like add transparency to one texture instead of two. Instead of like if you're like, oh, I don't want transparency on this one though, so you would only just have to make transparency on the bottom instead of like having to cut it off somewhere and like risk like this part being transparent. Yes. Also, there's a reason that these base colors and shade colors are the way they are. So this highlight color is also black, because I don't personally like how the highlight color looks. They're always like really, I don't know, look at this. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is really like jagged for some reason. I don't know why this is so jagged. So I usually just switch them off. I put the shade color onto a white, I put the base color onto a white, and so I can paint the color on top. Because the problem is, if I have the shade, if I have the base color yellow, right? If I look behind it, it's still pink, but only in where the shaded areas are. And so, if I wanted to like maybe like have if I had like a pink streak, that wouldn't be possible. However, if I if I wanted to have like a pink streak and yellow hair, that wouldn't be possible. So if I go back to white, I can just like draw like a you know, like a, let me just choose a green color. I can just have a green streak in the hair, and it doesn't have to, you know, bother with anything else. Shade color is also white because look how weird this looks. This doesn't fit shades. You can, if you wanted a shade, it's easier to just do it in like an art program than like in the game itself. In the program itself. Another thing, you can tell here that my textures are made by myself, because if you look at the textures in the normal one here, if you look at the normal textures, the most generic textures, let me find them. Why am I having so much trouble with this? What the hell? Okay, so like if you just look at the most generic features, right? Usually most characters just look like this, right? Most characters just look like this, and they have the same eye, like, you know, they have the same like eye line. Like usually most people just change the eye line, the eyelashes, and the iris, and they don't change like the skin, which I think is a big flaw. So this is why this character looks way more like customized. It's because I changed like everything here. So I changed the skin, I changed the eyelashes. So also a big thing. Don't even have like the eyelashes. Personally, I think eyelashes don't look that good on like a VRoid model. Some people can pull it off, but I personally, for mine, I don't have them, so they don't have them like going off. But if I had them, you know, they would be upright. But if you're doing something more anime, more 2D, I would suggest just going to the eye line and just drawing your eye line here. So this is how I drew mine, and this is how it looks on the model. I would generally suggest don't draw on the model itself, draw on the textures. Firstly, because the transparency looks really weird here for some reason, but the transparency is a little bit better here. Even then, the transparency doesn't really work here either, so if you want to do anything like transparent, don't do it here. I would also just suggest if you wanted to do like something semi-transparent, do not do it here. You can always do something semi-transparent in Unity, however, or you can erase things here. I would suggest like, you can see like there's a darker like edge around it. It's more prevalent. Okay, so let me show it. If I just draw like a green circle. If I draw a green circle, you can see the edges are kind of black here. You can see the edges are kind of black even though it's only just green. And if I erase it with like an airbrush tool, you can tell that this program doesn't really know how to handle it. It's kind of darker. It's kind of darker where it's supposed to be transparent. Which isn't always a bad thing, but it always kind of looks like she's burnt. This is like you can see it much better if you're on like a different kind of like hair or something like that. It's way easier to tell, but that was just a small example. So what I suggest, go to like different art programs, just do your textures there. Do your textures in art programs and actually completely redo all your textures. I would suggest redoing teeth also. They look really dull. If your character opens their teeth and like everything is textures except for the teeth, remember to do your teeth. What else is there? Remember to fix your hair. Remember to, like you can customize everything. Remember to customize everything. Pretty much everything. If you don't customize everything, it looks kind of bizarre. Remember to always like change the eyes, because you can play with these a lot. Like it doesn't, like, even though like when you have the original model and you're like, oh, these eyes look good, you might want to change them afterwards after you do the textures on the eyes. So you probably already know how to do the textures on the eyes, because the eyes, the eyebrows, the hair, those are generally what people know the most, so I'm not going to go over them. But yeah, those are the things that I just talked about are the smaller things that a lot of people overlook. Also, if you go here, right, if you go to the smile, it looks kind of bizarre, right? So if you go to Unity, there's a way that you can make it so, like, maybe if you smile in your capture software, it only goes up to here. So you can change it like this. That's how people do unique expressions, because like they're mixtures of like maybe smile and maybe closest of eyes, and like they play around with this to have like, so Unity is like, 60 smile and closest right, closest left is like sorrow or some shit like this, right? Like it's sorrow instead of like their predetermined and their pre-made sorrow expression, because not everyone expresses sorrow the same way, and so for characters you can also do that. That's why for rigging that's also expensive, because it takes a while. And also you can also have like different other Unity things, but I'm not extremely sure how to do those, and I'm not extremely proficient in Unity. But just doing like these kind of facial expressions, something like that, that's not that hard. But like actual rigging is like way harder than that, because you have to like actually know how to use Unity. But those have their own like tutorials on YouTube. If you want to know them, I'll put them in the description. There are also descriptions of how, if you want to do like semi-transparency, do them in the drawing program and then don't do them here. So like have like the completely opaque versions here, and then you can replace the semi so maybe like you want this to be like semi-transparent, right? So you would like just get rid of like you make this like a little bit more transparent in like an art program, then then you can import that exact texture into Unity, which has also another way to do that. I have no clue how to do that, but I know it's possible. So don't use transparency on VRoid. So those are the biggest things. Yeah, remember to shade things. Remember to you just don't conform to the norm, I guess, which sounds weird, right? But yeah. So if you just remember all these small little things, remember just, like, make the width of your things more varied, make everything like more customized to what you want it to be. So let me go here, right? Let me go to my different model here. You can also tell that, like, if you wanted to make like something like a hat, I've heard people can do that in hair. A big thing here, I did these horns completely in hair. That's how I did those. But if you wanted to do something like earrings that aren't like super detailed, you'd probably want to just draw them onto one hair texture, like this, and like just have a transparent background like this. Sorry, this is a click tool. This is a click tool. This is also a layer. Oops. So you would probably just want something like this, and this would be the earring, right? And so you would have this, and then you would just draw the earring straight down, like how you would do hair. Something like that. That's how I would do like more detailed earrings. But if you're doing something like super simple, or like, like if you really wanted to, you can do a lot of things with hair. But if you want to make them 3D, it's gonna be a little bit harder than just drawing like the thing and just like doing one stroke and being like, okay, that's the ear, and then you can fix it with your design. Also, you don't have to, it's not like line art. It's not like line art in Clip Studio Paint where you don't have control points. So here, if I wanted, I want this to move here, you can do this. So you can just do like a long strand, and you can change the control points. However, the big thing is, if you want to add more bones, or like you want to add more control points, I think you have to do them. I'm not totally sure how you do them, but I think you do them in bones somewhere, and I have no clue how to do them. I think there's a way you can, I think there's like a tutorial up there, but generally I would just draw this for a really long time, like a really long one, and then like if I really wanted to, I can make it shorter just so it's easier to manipulate. So something for a curlier thing, I would draw it for longer than I actually wanted it, so I could do this. So even though it was supposed to end here, it ends here, because I controlled it to do that. I put the control points here, and so yeah, it looks better like this. That makes sense. Also, big thing. Remember to separate your groups. Into bangs, side things, whatever. Even though it doesn't matter, because all of these are on different all of these are this group is on the same this group is all in the same mesh. So this is on a different mesh, so you can tell like the squares are longer here than they are in the bangs, because that's what matters here, and it doesn't have to be that long. But for these, you have to like actually go down here. If you want to do something like a ponytail or like a braid or anything like that, I would suggest drawing them straight like these first, and then changing the mesh to fit this. So that's how I did them here, and that's why they're so like they're so nice here, and that's why it looks so good. Because if you draw them over a mesh, you don't know where they're gonna go, because they don't change like they don't change the XY too much. Sometimes they do, but it's for small use cases. So if you look here, right, if you look at the mesh, they're like this, but I just drew them straight and then I changed the mesh. So it looks because the problem is, if you had something like this, right, the U shape here, if I drew it from this angle, right, I drew it from here, it looks like this, right? But if I look here, it might actually come out like this. which is a really big problem because if you fix it like here, maybe it looks wrong from this angle. So it's better if you just draw it down and you're like, okay, I know exactly around where I wanted to go, and then now I can change like where it is like in the y-axis. That makes sense. And you can change the mesh that way. I think I've covered everything. If you don't have any ideas for like what to do for clothes or like anything like that, usually Pinterest is a good place to look. Booth is also a good place to look because it has like a lot of free materials and also things that you can buy. But remember to always check the terms of service. If you don't check the terms of service, I am going to break your legs. But also there are like a lot of good things that you can like look at here. So there are like a lot of people who have like done hair, presets, who like maybe like, oh, they done like a really good version of ears. Like, so for if you look at my recently viewed, I have ears here. But then there are also like shoes you can do. Like there's like a lot of clothes that you can get. Also one other big thing. Wait. Yes. One other big thing. Even though you think that like, even though like it seems like there aren't a lot of ways to customize it, there are. Because even if you just look at the model here, right? Like just like a small example, because there are so many examples of how you can like bend this program to your will. So if you look at these shoes, right, they look like boots. However, if you go closer to them, you can tell these aren't even socks. These are literally just like, it's literally just shoe paint. Like they drew on the body layer, and then this is the actual shoe because you can see the seam here. So just like a small example like this, you can see, oh, I can actually do a lot with the program that it probably like it doesn't tell you outright.
Okay, so there was this little thing that I forgot to mention when I was doing my recording, my last recording at least. So if you are doing VRoid, right, there's a chance that you are going to hit into this. So you can see that there is let me just make the default image blue. Wait, I gotta make this a massive brush so I can just, oh, by the way, you can do this. You can literally just change your width to whatever if you just change the number. So okay, so now it's much better. I can actually see it now. Let me change my width parameters back again. Okay, so this is, let's just say, let's use a blue color for example, and let me draw a green down the middle. Sorry that it's not a complete straight line. I cannot see my cursor sometimes and I get distracted by the moving lines. So let's just draw a straight-ish line with the ruler tool. It's hard because it doesn't, if it's not completely straight, it draws like a fucking oval. But if we can see here, you can see that this side of the line is here, right? And then there is also this side of the line, which since my stuff isn't like as far out, you can't really see it. But if I just go a little bit more in, you can see that the hair here is here, split in half. But usually, okay, so usually hair would be split like this. This is how textures go. But for me, it's actually like this. And this is where the textures are for most of the art, right? If that makes sense. And so, this is the back, this is the front, right? Sorry, let me switch off my, yeah. This is the back of the hair, and this is the front, which is why even though there's no crosses over here, you can see the crosses here. And there would be nothing here in the back if you like turn this model around. So you have to understand, some of them are split in 4s, some of them are split in 2s. It depends on how you change your model. Some people like working smaller, some people like working bigger. For this specific model, I work smaller here, but it's also good to know where your highlights are. So generally, I will split mine in the middle. I'm sorry, these colors are actually just terrible, but it's for your sight. So this is in the middle, and so the circles, and then middle line, right? Oh, God. You can't really draw rulers in here. You can't really draw like straight lines in here. And I'm not great with the tablet, so this is just like a general gist. So if you normally draw this would actually be in the middle. However, because I adjusted it, now the circles will be like this. You you can always adjust it, and you just have to figure out where your thing is. So that's a big thing. You can change the highlight offset with if you just go to highlight position, you can just change that. You can change the offset, which just changes, so you can change which part, and so you can say, oh, this part has no highlight now. Width scale, yeah, it just changes the width, like all around. Thickness scale, I don't think this is very important. Amplitude, this one just makes it curly. It kind of looks like those like plastic twirly toys that I mentioned before. I don't think I use it very much. You can use it a little bit, looks fine, but yeah, I would prefer, it just doesn't look as good. Smoothness, I don't think looks that good. Generally, I would suggest you not using smoothness. Smoothness just doesn't look that good. Yeah, those are the biggest things. These don't matter that much. Diamond, I usually just use diamond, or unfulfilled triangle is fine. Fluffy is fine as well, but you will definitely want to change these. Yeah, those are the biggest things. Those are the biggest things that I forgot to talk about. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, Editor Connor here. I just want to say there was a few things that I missed. Firstly, there's a reflect tool. If you ever want to use it, it's good to use for, reflection, I guess. General tool that is very important, but even then, if you're working in VRoid, probably don't just for the art. I don't think it's very good. You can just put it in an art program. It's easier that way. Also, speaking of textures and stuff like that, don't use the blur tool. It sucks. If you're gonna blur anything, I would suggest use either a different program, or if you're really needing to use the only VRoid program because you don't have any other art programs, then I would suggest using a big airbrush tool or just a big eraser airbrush tool. Either of those are fine. And also, again, Alpha Lock gives you the same black weird border that it does when you have semi-transparency on the on textures. So don't do that. If you're gonna do anything like that, just pull it into a different program and then just put like clipping mask or Alpha Lock on that, and then export it all as a PNG into VRoid. Yeah. And curl looks weird excessively. I think it's called twirl in the program. If you use it excessively, it looks really weird. I would suggest using it like a little bit, because for my own style, I usually have like more thinner strands of hair. And so it looks really weird, and just looks like really weird plastic that's been turned, like those if you've ever seen that Vine where there's a Barbie there's a Barbie toy and they like sent it into the fire, they just like pull the string. It looks like that, right? Also, if you need any inspirations for VRoid models, there are like a ton, but like a big suggestion that I would say to look at, my favorite is DD Mavis. He's very good. However, they are pretty much deactivated everywhere on Twitter. I still think they do models, they just don't do it like they just don't do it very like showy. But yeah, they used to do a lot of VRoid commissions, and they did a lot of like big VTubers back then. And so yeah, if you really like, I don't know, I think this is a good starting point to look at. Other good like artists, I think I mentioned in the thing, my good friend Crystal. There are also other people, but a lot of them are into some kind of scandal, and so these are the few that I'm going to list. So yeah, if you want any others, you can probably just Google them. But yeah, I think that should cover everything. So I hope this helps you. If I missed anything, just let me know in the comments, and I'll try to answer your questions. I'm not I'm not like a pro at VRoid. These are just like small tips that I realized a lot of people forget about when they're doing stuff like that. So yeah, I hope this helps you. I hope I covered everything. Yeah. Hair is your best friend. Textures are your best friend. Just remember to do things. Remember to switch things on. Remember to customize things to your desires. You can do anything in this program if you just think about it. There's so many things you can do in this program, even though it seems limiting. There's so many things you can do, and you can make things look really good. So yeah, I hope you have a good day, and I hope this tutorial helps you. So bye!